Good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Bill Yonker again, coming to you for our Friday devotions. Hey, I want to show you what I got here. I got my workout shoes. I guess they're called running shoes, but I don't run anymore. I used to run all the time. In fact, when I was a little boy, I would be running all through the house, and my Aunt Alice, she would get so frustrated with me that she would literally tie my shoelaces together, and she'd tie my shoes on so tight on my feet that I couldn't kick them off. And then because my shoelaces were tied together, I could only make little bitty steps and I couldn't run. When I was in high school and college, I was on the track team. I was a hurdler and also a high jumper. I used to run all the time. Well, some years ago, I hurt my knee. And then 2 years ago, I got a new replacement knee. And then last year, I got a new replacement hip. And I hadn't been running for a number of years because my knee hurt and then my hip hurt. And so I was all excited after I got my hip fixed. I thought maybe I could run again because literally I have dreams where I'm running and I wake up and it felt so good to be running because I always used to be running. I asked the surgeon after I had my hip done, I said, so now can I run again? And he looked at me and he said, only if someone is chasing you. So I don't get to run. I tell you that to tell you this. Did you know in the Bible, there's a story that talks about God running? In fact, it's a story that Jesus tells. It's a story called The Prodigal Son. Maybe some of you know it. Let me retell it real quickly. It's about a man who has two sons, and the older son works real hard for the dad, but the younger son, he didn't want to work on the dad's farm anymore, and so he said to his dad, hey, give me my inheritance. Now, that's an interesting thing to say. Really what the boy was saying is, Dad, I don't want a relationship with you. I don't want to be with you anymore. So just give me what I'm due, what you're going to leave me after you die. And so the dad gave the boy his inheritance. And the boy went away to a far country, and he spent it, and he didn't spend it well. And he ended up wasting all of the money. And then he ended up getting a job feeding pigs. Now that may not be such a bad sounding job, but you see, when Jesus was telling this story, he was telling it to people who just think pigs are awful, that they're the very worst. And so to feed a pig, and the boy, it was such a lousy job for him. He wasn't paid very much money because he was still always hungry. In fact, he wanted to eat the food that he was feeding the pigs. Now Jesus was telling this story to some of the people that were against him, that didn't like his understanding and his teaching of who God the Father was. And so as he tells this story, we get the understanding that God the Father is really the Father in this story, and the boy who ran away really represents you and me when we push God away and we say, we don't want you, we just want your stuff. Well, without God, we end up like the boy, ultimately just feeding pigs. Well, the boy got tired of that, and he thought, how many of my father's workers, how many of the hired hands live better than I do? And so he started thinking, I'm going to go home and I'm going to say to Dad, Dad, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like you would a hired hand. And the boy thought, that's pretty good. Father, I'm no longer worthy to be your son. Treat me like you would a hired hand. And the boy thinks, yeah, that's exactly right. So he makes his way home. As Jesus is telling this story to the people who were against him, he said, while the boy was yet a long way off, the father saw him. Now, how could the father see him when he was a long way off? Only if the father was looking for him to return. The father couldn't wait for the boy to return. While the boy was yet a long way off, the father saw him, Jesus said. And then it says this, and the father ran to his son Now again, this story is about God the Father, and it's about us. And it's the only time we get a picture of God running. And what's wonderful, it's not about God running away from us. It's running to us. And we find out that he's not running to us to punish us, but to welcome us back into the kingdom. What you need to know about this, in Jesus' day, grown men wore long robes. And in fact, they thought it was considered undignified. It was considered bad manners for a grown man to even show his bare ankles. And so men wore these long flowing robes. Well, if you're going to run in a robe, there's only one thing you can do. You kind of, you hike up the gown, you pull up the robe, and so that you can run. God didn't care if people thought it was undignified. God didn't care if it looked like bad manners. He couldn't wait to get to his Son. That's how it is for us. When we return to God, maybe we've sinned, maybe we've done something bad. We often do. God says when we return to him, when we apologize, when we repent, he runs to us. And then it says this, when the Father ran to his Son, most Bibles will say that he hugged him and he kissed him. That's really a bad translation from the Bible originally was written in the Greek language, and the original Greek says this: the Father ran to his Son, fell on his neck, and began to kiss him. And literally what that means is he tackled him. God the Father ran to his Son, tackled him, and began to kiss him. And the Father started getting all excited about his Son being home. And the Son is laying there on his back with his hands out, I'm sure, going, what he thought he'd say, Father, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like you would a hired worker. And God the Father, or the Father in the story, which is God the Father, is hugging and kissing his Son. And he says, kill the fatted calf. Bring me your robe. Bring me my ring. Put it on my Son, because he has come home. And to have the robe of the Father, to have his it's known as a signet ring, the family ring, means that you're welcomed back into the family. Every time we repent, Jesus says we get welcomed back into the family. See, sin was paid for by Jesus on Calvary's cross. He rose from the grave, and now he says, whenever you repent, whenever you return to me, you're welcomed back into the family. I dream about running. Wish I could run again. But it's even better that I know that God did run. And he continues to run. He runs to me and he runs to you every time we repent. Every time we turn back to him, he runs to us and welcomes us back. That's a good thought for this week. It's a good thought when we're stuck home alone, wondering, is God out there? Does he care about me? So much so that he runs to you. I wish you God's blessings. Can't wait to see you. Love you.